If I could only think of how to cut you away, I wouldn't be so frightened or scared to be enlightened. It's kind of difficult to keep my mind on a day that I didn't really mind it. It's in my face, I'll find it. The fields of colors bleeding and it's so far from home. The thoughts keep coming forward, I wish I wasn't so bored. Does it really matter if I'm dying alone? I often try to fake it, what's in my face I'll take it. I'm trying not to break it, the timing it was so right. The heaviness is so light, no more or less is coming. The substance stand for something, you keep speaking easy, you really do believe me.
I am the devil. I am the Lord Satan from the netherworld, ruler of the damned and eternal king of hell. Even I, the master of deceit, can only stomach so much bullshit from the mainstream media and indie grifters. That's why I tune in to Morning Extra with Uncle Warren, because he eliminates my competition, and also because I know I'm gonna see that motherfucker soon.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a booger and a shooter and that shit is all go down. Baby's got a booger and a shooter and that shit is all go down. Corrosion to her thighs, erosion of her pride. Baby's got a shooter, baby's got corrosion now, baby's got it.
Happy Halloween! No, it's not Halloween. But it's a nightmare, that's for sure. So is that head. Good morning. Can you guys hear me? Am I speaking into the void again? It's Friday, April 4th. A couple friends of mine have birthdays today, so shout outs to them. I won't name them because, they're not that friendly. No, they're all right. They cool. Let's go around the horn. Nobody on the Rockfins just yet. I don't think anybody's on Facebook. But we can look. We can dream, right? Let's see. Let's look. No comments. It's just me. Kind of sad. Hey, good morning. You got Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show Intergalactic on Rumble and on YouTube. Double dipping. We got Willie Bragg in the house. Good morning to you, good sir. Happy Friday. Desert Mantis Audio Good. Thank you, sir. See, if you've been watching any of my shows long enough, you know that I'm just like audio. So I'm always wanting to make sure that that's a-okay. If you can't see me, that's fine. That you're not missing anything. Look at all these stragglers coming in. I was just about to put out the collection plate. Seriously, it's just like the Sweat Hogs just showed up. Oh, Swabby 5, good to see you. Representing Rick Solace, I may or may not have messed with the market. Anonymous and Bella. The four horsemen of the apocalypse. Good to see all of yous. Who else we got in the mix? I think that's it so far. Kind of a sausage fest, but that's all right. Oh, XXX and OOO to you as if I was writing you a love letter. That's what those X's and O's means. Hugs and kisses. Hugs. Kiss. It's going to be a weird Friday. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. That's right, Meatloaf. I'll play your game, you rogue. It's currently it says it's 44 degrees here in Chicago. And it's a little breezy in some spaces where that be happenings. What happened? Those horsemen aren't here yet. Yeah, you guys are more like the four Corvettes of the the Corvette. I don't know. Pick your favorite cars and ride, Captain, ride upon your own mystery ship. Boot, doot, doot. Come on, man. 38 degrees here in Northeast Oregon, says Desert Mantis, doxing himself. Good to see you. The four Camaros. Camaros los lobos del fuegos. Flaming Camaros. You know what? Flaming Camaros. See, we could go back in time and get one of those machines like on Wi-Files where they said that it was like running on like the tears of children or something like that. Shit, I want that. I want it. It's double the fun. Hang on a second. OCD. There we go. It's a little better. No, look at that giant hand. Oh, I've come to take you. All right, that should be good enough. Yeah, so it's Friday, and we got a lot of stuff to get to. And before I forget, and I probably will because it's one of those kind of days, our buddy Kevin over at Black Bear News, make sure you're helping him out if you can, sharing out his GoFundMe link. Help him to get back on his feet after losing his home in the LA fires. I think he's doing a Substack only show today. I don't know. Check out his stuff, and he'll tell you himself. So, good man. He does good work over there. You're ODD. You got a fucking problem with that. You're ODD. You're OD delicious. I tickle you if you see I get you right there. Stop it. You're too cute. All right. We can't get too happy because we got, of course, a lot of shitty news to get to today. And it might take a while, so. Another 3 hours of punishing, heartbreaking information. So get your tissues out. I thought the Halloween bit was going to be good, but in practice, well, that's how you work those things out. Anyway, so of course, where do we go? The Middle East. Where we go? Israel. Of course, Gaza. And what are they doing? Blowing up schools. Same as it ever was. I get a tickle right as I gotta talk. Israeli attacks on Gaza schools, sheltering displaced Palestinians, kills 33 because schools are what? Hamas. It's what they said. Everything's Hamas. The lady at the State Department said that. She said everything's Hamas. Didn't she say Tammy? Didn't Tammy over there at the State Department? She said, shit, they're all Hamas. All of them. Dirt, all that. That's all Hamas. At least 33 Palestinians have been killed and more than 100 wounded in Israeli air attacks on 3 schools, not 1, not 2, but 3 schools, housing displaced people in the Tufa neighborhood of Gaza City, according to local officials. Gaza's government media office said in a statement that 29 people, including 18 children, were killed and more than 100 were injured when Israeli air raids hit the Dar al-Arqam school turned shelter yesterday. The school was hit with at least 4 missiles, a civil defense spokesperson said. Sources told Al Jazeera that at least 4 people also were killed in an Israeli attack on the Fad school in the same area of Gaza City, which was also sheltering displaced families. Israeli forces also reportedly hit Shaban al-Rayas school in Tufa, although no figures on casualties were immediately available. The Israeli military said it struck a command center in Gaza City that had been used by Hamas fighters. Hamas, to plan and execute attacks against Israeli civilians and soldiers. It was unclear whether it was the same attack that targeted a school. If you're new to this show and you're saying, well, why is it being so sarcastic about Hamas fighters' plans to attacks? Because that's not what they say all the time. It's that and the hostages and all of a sudden, and so that's their justification for putting bullets in children's heads. I mean, if you want it boiled down to it, that's what it is. Israeli forces have routinely targeted shelters in the Gaza Strip that house displaced families who have nowhere to flee and remain trapped in the besieged enclave, which is being heavily bombarded, to say the least. So I think that might be it for... No, there's more. Okay, good. It's always so... It's like secret messages. Just put it up there. You ain't gonna put all that shit in there. Al Jazeera's Hani Mahmoud, reporting from Gaza City, said the footage from the site of the bombing at Dar al-Arqam School was horrific. Some of the footage is too graphic to show, horrific and deeply disturbing. Many were killed on the spot, while others succumbed to their injuries while being transported in ambulances or civilian vehicles to Al-Ali Hospital, Mahmoud said. This tragedy underscores again that Israeli described safe zones are anything but, he added. It's not safe when you're bombing it. I mean, I don't know how much you have to read into that, but a spokesperson from Gaza's emergency rescue workers told Al Jazeera the international community must step in immediately to stop the Israeli army from killing Palestinians. What is going on here is a wake-up call to the entire world. This war and these massacres against women and children must stop immediately. Children are being killed with cold blood here in Gaza, he said. No lies found there. Medical sources told Al Jazeera that at least 112 people have been killed in Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip since dawn yesterday, with 71 people killed in Gaza City and many others killed in attacks on the southern city of Khan Yunis. In Gaza City, 21 bodies were taken to Al-Ali Arab Hospital, including those of 14 people have been taken to Nasser Hospital, 9 of them from the same family. Those killed included 5 children and 4 women because... Yeah. Oh, didn't mean to do that. The bodies of another 19 people, including 5 children aged 1 to 7, and a pregnant woman, were taken to the European Gaza hospital near Khan Yunis, according to hospital officials. The government media office warned that civil defense crews are finding it increasingly difficult to remove people from under the rubble without adequate equipment and vehicles, and while the healthcare sector is collapsing. Israel has imposed a month-long total siege on Gaza, sealing vital crossings and banning the entry of all humanitarian aid, including food, fuel, and medical supplies, leaving Palestinians in Gaza with acute shortages and exacerbating an already dire humanitarian catastrophe. Yeah, that's what they're living in. Just rubble. Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of fleeing families sought shelter in one of the biggest displacement of the war on Thursday as Israeli forces advanced into the ruins of Gaza's southernmost city of Rafah, part of a newly announced security zone they intend to seize. And then it won't be secure, I don't think, at least not for people. The Israeli army's assault to capture Rafah is a major escalation in the war after Israel broke a ceasefire with Hamas on March 18th and resumed its attacks on Gaza. Israeli forces on Thursday pushed into the city, which had served as a last refuge for people fleeing other areas for much of the war. Rafah is gone. It is being wiped out, a father of 7 told the Reuters news agency. He was among the hundreds of thousands of people who had fled from Rafah to neighboring Khan Yunis. They're knocking down what is left standing of houses and property, he said. Separately, the Israeli military on Thursday issued new orders to residents in parts of central Gaza, telling them to move west towards Gaza City and saying it planned to work with extreme force in your area. Many Palestinians leaving the targeted area did so on foot, with some carrying their belongings on their backs and others using donkey carts. My wife and I have been walking for 3 hours, covering only half a mile. A little more than half a mile, said Muhammad Ermana, 72. The couple, clasping hands, walked with each other with a cane, looking for shelters. Also on Thursday, Israel's military said it was conducting an investigation into the deaths of 15 Palestinian aid workers. We told you about that, found buried in a shallow grave near the Red Crescent vehicles. The vehicles were buried too. So that's all for that portion. This is more on the part of where they were in Rafah. Who else is in here? Smeghead, good morning. Yes, happy Friday. Good to see you, Candy. Hope all is well. So, the Ministry of Health in Gaza said yesterday that 112 Palestinians were killed in those airstrikes since dawn. 70 of those deaths taking place in Gaza City. Let's see. Later on Thursday, an Israeli airstrike killed at least 27 Palestinians, including women and children. Medics said 3 missiles slammed into Dar al-Arqam school. Thought there was more in this one. Okay. Also in the Shijaya in the north, one of the districts where Israel has ordered the population to leave, hundreds of residents streamed out yesterday. Gazans who had returned to homes in the ruins during the ceasefire have now been ordered to flee communities on flee community on the northern and southern edges of the strip. They fear Israel intends to depopulate those areas indefinitely, leaving many hundreds of thousands of people permanently homeless. Okay. So let me go back real quick. So now it's just more of the same. It's they're continuing to clear out Gaza, right? And then they're doing so in Syria too, as they know Syria is pretty weak right now. Syrian Foreign Ministry accuses Israel of destabilization after massive wave of attacks. So yeah, that's what they do. They take advantage of fragile situations like that. Israel does. The Syrian Foreign Ministry accused Israel of destabilization yesterday following a massive wave of airstrikes on military sites across the country in a blatant violation of international law and Syrian sovereignty. Israeli forces launched airstrikes on 5 locations across the country. This unjustified escalation is a deliberate attempt to destabilize Syria and exacerbate the suffering of its people, the foreign ministry stated. Well, yeah, of course. Welcome to the world 2025, where if you're a weak state, you look like, it's like in the old cartoons, they look at you, you'd be a person, and then all of a sudden you turn into like a turkey leg or a juicy steak, and then you turn back into a human, and then the other person's like, ah, 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 ah. That's what they're looking to see here because of all their natural resources over there. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Good morning, everybody. It's one of those weird Fridays. How about President Lawrence Loomer? Oh my. That would hurt. That wouldn't hurt. Max, good morning. Where's Kenny? Kenny's here. You just got to look up and read. All right. In a blatant violation of international law and Syrian sovereignty, Israeli forces launched airstrikes on 5 locations across the country. This unjustified escalation is a deliberate attempt to destabilize Syria and exacerbate the suffering of its people who were previously under Assad before these jokers took over. The Israeli Air Force launched over a dozen airstrikes on various cities in Syria on April 2nd, targeting the Barza Scientific Research Center just outside Damascus, the Hama Military Airport in western Syria, and the T4 Air Base near Palmyra. The Hama Airport was almost completely destroyed. Israeli airstrikes also hit the countryside of Syria's southern Daraa governorate. The Israeli army continued its ground incursions in southern Syria. At least 9 people have been killed by both airstrikes and ground troops in Daraa. Clashes also erupted between armed locals and Israeli occupation forces. During the night, Brigade 474 forces operated in the Tassel area in southern Syria, confiscating weapons and destroying terrorist infrastructure. During the operation, several militants fired at our forces in the area. The forces responded with fire and eliminated several armed terrorists from the ground and air, the Israeli army said in a statement on Thursday morning. The forces completed their mission in the area. There were no casualties among our forces, it added. In a statement yesterday, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said, I warned Syrian leader Giuliani. I almost said Giuliani. Oh my God. If Rudy was the leader of the Syrians, that little drizzle of paint going down his head. I warned Syrian leader Giuliani, if you allow hostile forces to enter Syria and threaten Israeli security interests, you will pay a heavy price. Oh, come on. So now everybody's doing the wrestling talk. You will pay heavy price. I will come to house and mash potatoes for you. You piece of shit. Sorry. OCD. Now it's off center. I know I'm such a diva. All right. Yeah, I warned Syrian leader Giuliani. We're going to settle this in the squared circle. Israeli occupation forces swept across southern Syria after the ousting of former President Bashar al-Assad in December, moving past the demilitarized zone and expanding their decades-long illegal occupation in the country. Because why? That's what they do. That's their thing. Tel Aviv has demanded a complete demilitarization of southern Syria and continues to launch incursions deeper into the country. The Israeli Air Force has pounded military infrastructure belonging to the former government with hundreds of airstrikes since December of last year. Katz has said that the presence of Tel Aviv's forces in Syria will be indefinite. Syrian authorities have signaled an unwillingness for a confrontation with Israel because, of course, they don't want one. They don't want, they ain't ready. They're not ready for that jelly or whatever that was they used to say. Because they're little itty bitties. They're little ones that, and plus they got like 80 to 90% of their shit blowed up, didn't they? All their weapons. How you're gonna be like, yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, bring your weapons. I won't be there. What are you gonna bring? You gonna bring some? What are you gonna do? You bring some BB guns, some pellet guns. You got a 22 that's rusting, and you gonna shine that up? Oh, that's fun stuff. Yeah, so Syria is pretty much up for grabs. And I don't know if if those bases are still there or not. Once Russia, I think Russia said they're leaving too. So if Russia leaves, who knows? Kenny says, oh yeah, I saw something from the National Weather Service about a bad flood expected across multiple states. Yeah, we got a little thing on that later about some of that bad weather that's been going on too. Some nasty shit. All right. Well, more nasty shit for you. As turns out the country Hungary, or at least their leadership, are big bunches of pieces of shit. Hungary hosts Israel's Netanyahu, announces it will quit the International Criminal Court. Because we kind of like Nazis. I mean, what? We're hungry for more fascism. Badum-tis. Yes. So yesterday, Hungary hosted Baba Hotep Benjamin Netanyahu and announced it would be quitting the International Criminal Court, which has issued an arrest warrant for Netanyahu for war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. The Hungarian government has decided to withdraw from the ICC. The Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, that guy, said in Budapest, alongside Netanyahu, who was clapping during the announcement, telling him, good boy, and then he pats him on the head and he gave him a little treat. And then he took his dignity again. In a post on the tweeters, Orban said the ICC has become a political tribunal, evident in its witch hunt against Prime Minister Netanyahu. We will not support a court that targets democracies like Israel's for political gain. Hungary defends the rule of law. Hungary stands with Israel. It wasn't quite certain if that was a written statement or if someone had, that was written. It was on the tweeters, because if somebody had to say it, they'd have a lot of cock in their mouth to get, excuse me, sorry. This delicious APAC cock. The ICC issued its warrants for Netanyahu and former Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Back in November of last year, the court also sought warrants for 3 Hamas leaders, but they have all been killed by Israel. So it's like, they're gone, bud, so you're next. Only you remain. Orban has been one of the few European leaders consistently calling for peace in Ukraine, but he has expressed strong support for Israel amid its genocidal war on Gaza. Hungary stood by Israel in Hamas's murderous attack, and today Hungary stands by Israel in the attack on the hypocrisy of the International Criminal Court in The Hague, Netanyahu said in a post on the tweeters. Wait, what? And the hypocrisy. Okay. Both the Biden administration and the Trump administration, delicious penis, have strongly opposed the ICC's efforts against Netanyahu since the U.S. is implicated in Israeli war crimes due to U.S. military aid to Israel and other kinds of support. In February, the Trump administration sanctioned Karim Khan, a British lawyer who serves as the chief ICC prosecutor. So, dun, 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 dun. They said, you know what? We're done. Come on, man. They're not like, okay, they're Nazis, but they're not like bad Nazis. They're not like the Nazis. That's what I think happens. I don't know. Meanwhile, Lebanon said, well, they just said, here comes Israel fucking us over again. As Israel bombs civil defense site. Look at that. Civil defense. You know, like if there's a, earthquake or some shit, the civil defense helps with getting people to safety. But I guess they need a civil defense against the civil defense. As Israel bombs civil defense site in South Lebanon's Nakora. New Israeli airstrikes hit southern Lebanon yesterday, including an attack on a civil defense headquarters in the town of Nakora. An enemy drone targeted a car on the Bint Jabil Yaroun road. The enemy drone targeted a rapid vehicle, Lebanon's national news agency, NNA, reported yesterday. 2 people were injured in the attack. Lebanon's health ministry said, according to local reports, the attack appeared to be a failed assassination attempt, as the passengers inside the vehicle survived. The Israeli enemy targeted the newly established Civil Defense Center on the Islamic Health Authority in the town of Nakora at dawn today with 3 aggressive raids, which led to its complete destruction and damage to 2 ambulances and a fire truck. Divine Mercy prevented any injuries among the paramedics, the Islamic Health Authority announced after an attack on its site early yesterday. Israel also bombed a residential building in Nakora, of course, because that's what they do. They don't go for the military stuff. They go for the residential areas, right, kids? Because it's so easy. It's right there. Fresh pickings. The new attacks came one day after Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, visited an Israeli outpost established on Lebanese territory near the town of Markaba. Speaking to the Times of Israel during the visit on Wednesday, Katz vowed that Israel's occupation in South Lebanon, as he said before, would be indefinite. We are here without a time limit. It doesn't depend on time. It depends on the situation, Katz said. In other words, as long as the threat exists and Hezbollah does not withdraw beyond the Litani, does not disarm, and the Lebanese army does not enforce, we are here to provide protection, he said unironically. I said that if there is no quiet in the Galilee, there will be no quiet in Beirut. If one building is demolished, if this continues, then many roofs in Dahia will shake. We will not compromise. We will respond forcefully to any attempted attack and any attack. He went on to say, an open threat to the Lebanese capital. Israel bombed Beirut's southern suburbs on April 1st, killing several people, including a top Hezbollah member and his son. The last Israeli strike on the Lebanese capital before that took place on Friday last week. It was the first Israeli attack on Beirut since right before the ceasefire was reached in November last year. Tel Aviv has continued to carry out deadly strikes on Lebanese territory since the truce agreement took effect, violating the deal over 1,500 times. That's probably a conservative number, too. Israel's military also remains positioned in 5 locations along the border inside southern Lebanon, where they established themselves following the ceasefire deal in November. This is aside from the Lebanese land that Israel has already been illegally occupying for decades. Israel was meant to pull out all its forces from South Lebanon after the ceasefire deal. However, it did not, accusing Hezbollah of still being present south of the Litani River and alleging that the Lebanese army had not fulfilled its terms by properly deploying in the area. Satellite imagery reviewed by the New York Times showed Israeli forces have been building a network of military structures and fortifications in South Lebanon. Somebody being cheeky. I'm telling you. Terrible people, man. Oh, how's everybody doing? Who snuck in here? Anybody? The pager bombs were from Hungary. Yeah, that's right, Bella. Yeah, Hungary said, nah. We were just playing. We were just clouded. We're fascists. Hungary. I don't know anybody from Hungary, so I hope I don't offend anybody who is from Hungary when I say, yeah, that country sounds pretty sketchy. So, so as I hope your Liberation Day or whatever the fuck that was that Trump did, we'll get into that in a second. But I hope that was fine. But so the U.S. is just being this tough guy asshole to everybody around the world. It's insane. So let's do this, just a little piece of the puzzle here, as the U.S. gives Lebanon an ultimatum to disarm Hezbollah or face war. So now we could possibly have boots on the ground in Lebanon. Maybe, who knows? Lebanon is facing increased pressure from the U.S. in the form of an ultimatum to either disarm Hezbollah by force within a specified time period or face a renewed Israeli war against the country, according to Lebanese newspaper Al Akhbar. U.S. envoy to the region, Morgan Ortagus, who praised Israel's war against Lebanon during a speech at the Lebanese presidential palace in February, is expected to visit Lebanon in the next 2 days. This visit carries a U.S. message demanding the initiation of a plan to disarm Hezbollah as a condition for all other issues, from Israeli withdrawal to reconstruction, Al Akbar reported yesterday. Threatening messages have been reaching officials that deviate from the framework of UN Resolution 1701 and carry suicidal proposals for Lebanon, sources told the newspaper. According to the report, officials feel cornered and unable to circumvent U.S.-Israeli pressure, which is pushing Lebanon to accept one of 2 options: disarming Hezbollah by force, which would mean an internal conflict, civil war, or a new large-scale Israeli war to disarm it, the report goes on to say. It sounds like war either way. The sources revealed there is a possibility of a new Israeli army operation against Lebanon. Israel will launch a military operation within a specific time frame, and that the Americans have given the green light for it. It's unknown whether this will occur after Ortagus' visit or whether she will delay her visit until after the operation is carried out, they said. They added that Lebanon as a whole is living in a state of fear. Last month, the U.S. announced it was facilitating indirect negotiations between Lebanon and Israel to discuss Lebanese prisoners held in Israeli jails, 13 disputed points along the border which Tel Aviv was meant to withdraw from years ago, and the 5 points occupied by Israeli forces after the ceasefire agreement reached in November of last year. According to Al Akbar, Washington and Tel Aviv are now demanding, as part of these talks, the disarming of Hezbollah within a specific time frame. The U.S. is also looking to secure an eventual normalization of ties between Lebanon and Israel, or else push the country into civil war by pitting the army against the resistance. Any internal attempt to push Hezbollah into surrendering its weapons is likely to cause chaos and civil strife in the country. Yeah, so they want to dismantle Hezbollah, which is not going to happen. Or they're going to try and take the weapons by force, and that hasn't been happening either. Drip, drip, drip. Drip, drip, drip. That's 14. Anybody got a good link? Maybe we can break in and see what's going on with the market. Maybe this is it, folks. Maybe this is the thing. It's like bidding. The U.S. is also looking to secure an eventual normalization of ties between Lebanon and Israel, or else push the country into civil war by pitting the army against the resistance, which is what's going to happen. Any internal attempt to push Hezbollah into surrendering its weapons is likely to cause chaos and civil strife in the country. All right, hang on a second. I want to check something really quick. Breaking news. I don't have the breaking news. I had the breaking wind thing. So, seeing if anybody's, let's see. One moment, please. Let's see, let's do stock market. Global sell-off. That's crazy. Let's see what's Fed Chair Jerome Powell speaks at conference in Virginia. Powell speaks during Trump. Let's see.
Purple ties all the time.
Okay.
But I felt like you didn't. It just felt a little awkward to be wearing one that was identified. We are strictly non-political.
This is CNBC.
I can't stress that enough. We are not. It's not that we're bipartisan. We are non-political. We don't do that, and so.
So it's down to 1,400.
That's all. Plus, I like purple ties.
I mean, it's down 1,400.
Tie.
Purple guitar pick. I have one other Milwaukee question that I overlooked here, but in Milwaukee and other parts of the country, the housing market is out of whack. In our market alone, in southeastern Wisconsin, there's 5,000, the market's out of whack by like 5,000 houses that need to be on the market for it to have equilibrium. And this report this week said tariffs could tack on some $6,000 to the cost of building a new home. How long are people going to sit on their cheap mortgages from COVID? Thank you very much. Before we move on.
We'll come back to that as as things progress. Or digress, I guess, in that case. All right, where were we? Okay, that's okay. I'm a one-man show over here. All right. So bear with me, please. All right, we did that one. Oh, I meant that one. We did that one. This one. Come on. Okay, that was the ultimatum. Okay, all right. So now we're back in business. Sorry. So, we were talking about how some people are trying to sue the Palestinians for October 7th. Thank you for bearing with me. I had to reset this up. So you have that. Now you have, as the U.S. Supreme Court weighs whether Americans can sue the Palestinian Authority. Finger man. Drive and hope all's well. All right. Be safe, my friend, on those dusty roads. The U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments on Tuesday on whether American victims of attacks in Israel and the occupied West Bank can sue the Palestinian authorities for damages in U.S. courts. The long-running case involves the jurisdiction of U.S. federal courts to hear lawsuits involving the Palestinian Authority, that's the PA, and the Palestine Liberation Organization, the PLO. Americans or their relatives killed or injured in attacks in Israel or the occupied West Bank have filed a number of suits seeking damages. In one 2015 case, a jury awarded $654 million to the U.S. victims of attacks that took place in the early 2000s. Appeals courts dismissed the suits on jurisdiction grounds. The Supreme Court is weighing a decision at a time when Israel's war on Gaza is making its way into U.S. courts. That's Trump bringing them in there. Earlier this year, a group of survivors from the Hamas-led attacks on southern Israel sued the Al Jazeera network, which is based in Qatar, in a U.S. court, alleging that it assisted Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad in spreading propaganda, recruiting activists, and inciting violence. The lawsuit was filed at a U.S. District Court in Washington, D.C. on February 23rd, according to Stand With Us, which says they assisted in preparing the lawsuit. The lawsuit seeks financial compensation and justice for victims and victims' families of the October 7th attacks and ensuing war. The Supreme Court has to decide on a law passed by U.S. Congress in 2019, the Promoting Security and Justice for Victims of Terrorism Act, that would make the PLO and PA subject to U.S. jurisdiction if they were found to have made payments to the relatives of persons who killed or injured Americans. Two lower courts ruled that the 2019 law was a violation of the due process rights of the Palestinian authorities, but a majority of the justices on the conservative majority Supreme Court appeared inclined on Tuesday to uphold it. Congress and the president are the ones who make fairness judgments when we're talking about the national security and foreign policy of the United States, Justice Brett Kavanaugh said. Deputy Solicitor General Edward Needler, representing the Trump administration, more like Keebler, agreed, saying the court should not substitute themselves for Congress or the president. Congress and the president made a judgment that is entitled to virtually absolute deference, that it is appropriate to subject the PA and the PLO to jurisdiction, Needler said. In this case, respondents had a chance to avoid that by just stopping those activities, but they didn't, he said. Mitchell Berger, representing the PA and PLO, said assigning jurisdiction is over and above what Congress can prescribe. He called on the Supreme Court to reaffirm the Second U.S. Court of Appeals ruling that the law denied the groups a fair legal process. Berger used an example of piracy to challenge the premise of the congressional law. He said that while piracy has been illegal since the U.S.'s founding, no one believed Congress had a right to allow pirates to be tried in the U.S. without being present there, he said. The Supreme Court is expected to issue a ruling before the end of its term in June, and probably some crazy shit's going to happen with that. So let me guess, tell me if you've, stop me if you've heard this one before, but it'll still be illegal to BDS Israel, but suing Palestine. Hey, come on. Kids gotta have some fun, can't they? Sorry. So, even though Trumpy's like, this Signalgate stuff is bullshit, some people don't seem to think so. And I don't know, maybe it is beating a dead horse, but it's still worth looking into because, you putting this this shit that should be top secret on an open app like that for one thing is not good. The second thing is you admitted to war crimes in said Signal app. So this definitely needs to be paid attention to. As the Pentagon thinks so. Anyway, as Pentagon watchdog opens probe giggity into use of Signal for Yemen attack plans. Still, you're going to get probed, all right. You get DARPA involved in all kinds of crazy shit. Boom, 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 boom. The Pentagon's Inspector General's office announced yesterday it was opening a probe into Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's use of unclassified commercial texting application Signal to coordinate on the highly sensitive March 15th launch of U.S. strikes on Yemen's Houthis. In a memorandum addressed to Hegseth, the Inspector General's office said it would examine whether Hegseth's use of Signal met Defense Department's guidelines, including those related to classified information. Should just use your Jewel Osco app. You could probably save money. Or your Costco app. Hegseth has repeatedly said no classified information was revealed in the chat. War crimes, yes, but classified shit, no. Even though it included precise times for the launch of U.S. airstrikes and some targeting details that are regarded as closely guarded secrets ahead of a surprise military operation like the one in Yemen. Because it's probably not the only time they use those tactics there, Bob. The details of the chat were revealed last week by The Atlantic magazine after its editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, was included in the chat by mistake or not by mistake, whatever. An embarrassing incident involving all of President Trump's most senior national security officials. The case also renewed scrutiny of Hegseth, who only narrowly won Senate confirmation after a bruising review that raised serious questions about his experience, temperament, and views about women in Congress, in combat, or Congress probably too. The objective of this evaluation is to determine the extent to which the Secretary of Defense and other Department of Defense personnel complied with DoD policies and procedures for the use of a commercial messaging application for official business, wrote Stephen Stebbins, the acting inspecting general. Additionally, we will review compliance with classification and records retention requirements. And I think with Signal, it like erases the things. Or you can set it to that. Fingerman's opening a probe. You dirty, dirty guys. Hegseth texted about plans to kill a Houthi militant leader in Yemen 2 hours before a military operation started, and included precise details about when F-18 fighter jets as well as sea-based cruise missiles would launch. Clean on OPSEC. I don't know what that means. Hegseth's text started with this is the text. Okay. With the title Team Up, and included these details according to the Atlantic. So the time now, 11:44 Eastern. Weather is favorable. Just confirmed with CENTCOM. We are go for mission launch. 12:15 Eastern. F-18's launch for strike package. Yeah. The 13:45 trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts. Terror target is at his known location, so should be on time. Also strike drones. So basically, this just goes on. Tomahawks missiles, where they blew up this. Who was it they were going after? I can't remember. Toward the end of the text chain, Hegseth said the mission was clean as on OPSEC, an acronym for Operational Security, touting no leaks, even though the reporter was on the text chain. So they showed they told the whole description of the strike, and they said, yep, security's clean, but wump wump. If Houthi leaders knew a strike was coming, they might have been able to flee, possibly to crowded areas where targeting is more difficult, and the number of potential civilian casualties might be deemed too high to proceed. Top Democrat on the Senate's Pentagon Oversight Committee, Jack Reed, said a leak could have put U.S. pilots at risk. That's right. You put my boys in danger. The potentially deadly consequences from Secretary Hegseth's blunder are chilling, Reed said in a statement. Had the intelligence in his chat messages, giggity. There's no intelligence in those chat messages. Been obtained by the Houthis or another adversary, it would have allowed them to reposition weapons to target our pilots with dangerously accurate intelligence. Now, come on, man. The Houthis don't use Signal. Silly biscuits. In a sign of the sensitivities, the U.S. military Central Command has provided far fewer details to the public than usual about its ongoing operations in Yemen, including basic information like, the number of strikes so far. Asked about details on the campaign, which began on March 15th, the defense official providing a written response on condition of anonymity. Anonymity, told Reuters CENTCOM won't provide details on strikes until the operation is concluded, and there is no additional risk to U.S. personnel or of assets involved. Stebbins, the acting inspector general, he's acting. He's just an actor, y'all. He's just pretending. He said the review would take place in D.C. as well as at Central Command headquarters in Tampa. We request that you designate 2 points of contact for this evaluation within 5 days, he wrote in the memo, or else no cheese for any of you, which was also addressed to Hegseth's deputy Steve Feinberg. While it's rare for the Inspector General to investigate a U.S. Defense Secretary, the office most recently probed Hegseth's predecessor, Joe Biden's Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, over his secret hospitalization last year. Remember that? Remember it all secret? Stebbins became the acting inspecting general in January after Trump fired the previous head of the Defense Department's independent watchdog and other agency watchdogs across the government during his first week in office. Because watchdogs, we got cameras. We don't need watchdogs. You stupid. Y'all be stupid with that shit. Yeah, so, what was this? Yeah. So, that, yeah, and this is probably not going to go away for a while. right? Because this is some dumb shit. I mean, if you're talking about somebody who's actually serious about national security, they're like, the fuck are you guys doing? And the people, and if there is adversaries around the world, you just sneak in and get our shit, then we're fucked. That's it. So, it wasn't just one signal group either. According to Politico, Waltz's team set up at least 20 signal group chats for crises around the world. He's like, I got all them signals, kid. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz's team regularly sets up chats on Signal to coordinate official work on issues including Ukraine, China, Gaza, Middle East policy, Africa, and Europe, according to 4 people who have been personally added to Signal chats. 2 of the people said they were in or have direct knowledge of at least 20 such chats. All 4 said they saw instances of sensitive information being discussed. It's a more extensive use of the app than previously reported and sheds new light on how commonly the Trump administration's national security team relies on Signal, a publicly available messaging app, to conduct its work. It was commonplace to stand up chats on any given national security topic, said one of the people involved in the chats, adding that the groups often included cabinet members and high-level staff. All 4 of the people were granted anonymity because they were not authorized to publicly discuss the private chats. Veteran national security officials have warned the practices potentially violates regulations on protecting sensitive national security information from foreign adversaries and federal record-keeping laws if the chats are automatically deleted. National Security Council spokesperson Brian Hughes noted that Signal is allowed on government devices and that some agencies automatically install it on employees' phones. He also stressed that officials have used the app in both the Biden and Trump administrations. Yeah, this is like a systemic thing. It's one of the approved methods of communicating, but is not the primary or even secondary. It's one of a host of approved methods for unclassified material with the understanding that a user must preserve the record, but that's not what happens on Signal. Or maybe you can. Hughes said any claim of use for classified information is 100% untrue. None of the 4 individuals said that they were aware of whether any classified information was shared, but all said that posts in group chats did include sensitive details of national security work. The Wall Street Journal previously reported on the existence of a National Security Council Signal group chats beyond the one on Yemen that the Atlantic first reported on. These latest revelations show that the NSC's reliance on Signal is widespread and part of standard operations. SOP. Waltz built the entire NFC communications process on Signal, said another one of the people who participated in multiple group chats. Waltz's use of Signal to coordinate the work of the NSC has come under intense public scrutiny after he accidentally included a journalist on the Signal group app with the thing with the person about Yemen. You remember that shitstorm? Waltz and incoming NSC staff first started using Signal prolifically during the transition period before the inauguration and never stopped, according to another one of the 4 people who participated in the chats. Denver Attaway. What's up, Denver? Tip of the hat to you. Good morning. Good afternoon. What time is it? Okay. This is a bunch of folks who have never been here before and couldn't switch from campaign mode, said a 5th person, a former Trump administration official. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's one of those things like, you know what, man? This thing works so good. Let's just keep using this, man. I bet that government shit just sucks, man. And then they're going to be like all up in our business too, you know. We don't want that, right? We don't want them all up in our business. Yeah, it's a good private thing to keep out of prying eyes because those things are supposed to be like, accessible. And then you set them to disappear. Since the Signal chats emerged, Waltz and his staff have also come under fire for using personal Gmail accounts. Yeah, nice. For government communication, as reported by the Washington Post. The NSC confirmed that Waltz and his staff used Gmail accounts, but insisted it was to comply with federal records retention, and Waltz never sent classified information over any unsecured platform. Well, except for Signal. Much of the uproar over the Yemen chat group has been about sensitive operational details that were shared. In the Yemen group chat, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth messaged Waltz and other cabinet officials military strike plans and attack sequences of U.S. airstrikes against Iran-backed Houthi militants in Yemen. Experts and even some current officials have said that the details that Hegseth shared were likely classified. Oopsie sauce with a side of maybe gravy. Though the White House has sought to downplay the sensitivity of the information shared. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee sent letters Tuesday to multiple members of the Houthi PC small group Signal chat, including requesting that they appear before Congress for transcribed interviews as part of their investigation into potential security breaches from the use of Signal. Virginia Representative Jerry Connolly, no, it probably doesn't sound like that, the top Democrat on the Oversight Committee, wrote in the letters that the Signal group chat raises immediate and deeply alarming concerns about the misuse of unsecured communication platforms and the reckless dissemination of potentially classified materials. Oh, those delicious chats. What's in those chats, baby? What's in it's not Signalgate. It's gonna be Gmailgate, Chatgate. What you got cooking in there? What you cooking in there? Damn, my booty. Oh, there we go. Found the nice dip. Now my back. Never satisfied. All right. So yeah. This is probably not going away anytime soon. And now we got Liberation Day. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun. That was Wednesday, April 2. Liberation Day. Come with me if you want to get tariffed. That was terrible. Trump's reciprocal tariffs. How much will each country be hit? So he's like, look at all these. It's like he's probably gonna. That's like porn to him. He's like, look at all these tariffs, delicious tariffs. Vietnam, 90%. Damn, Cambodia. Fuck Cambodia, right? 97%. Donald Snuffleupagus on Wednesday announced a range of reciprocal tariffs targeting almost all countries that the United States even knows how to spell. Trades with, taking a sledgehammer to Washington's longstanding advocacy of free trade and globalization. Trump's latest tariffs, which build on a series of similar steps he's taken since returning to office on January 20th, are going to hit the countries with which Washington has large trade deficits or that impose heavy tariffs on U.S. goods. In 2023, the U.S. imports were worth $1.1 trillion more than its exports. Owie, zowie, with the tariffs. No other country has as large a trade deficit as the U.S. That's right, baby. We're number one. Trump's reciprocal tariffs also target countries like Syria, which has faced Israeli attacks since the overthrow of President Bashar al-Assad in December, and Myanmar, which is reeling from earthquake damage amid a civil war. More on them later. They also target economies already struggling to balance their books, depending on loans from the International Monetary Fund, such as Sri Lanka and Pakistan. Here is how each country will specifically be targeted by Trump's tariffs and the few sectors that are for now exempt from penalties. I don't think we're going to go through all the things, but we'll just hit the highlights. Trump announced the reciprocal tariffs in an executive order alongside an address in the Rose Garden at the White House on Wednesday. Feeling very, very springy. Trump had been describing April 2nd as Liberation Day, or the day my big pants came in and I got to wear them. In the executive order, Trump said, while the U.S. trading policy has been built on the principle of reciprocity, he didn't write that, taxes and barriers on U.S. products by its trading partners had hurt the U.S. The tariffs, he said, were a response. These reciprocal tariffs will come into effect on April 9th. So we got the first round of tariffs. Now, the reciprocal ones are going to happen coming up in a few days. During his address, Trump made the argument that the U.S. is charging its trading partners with smaller tariffs compared with the tariffs and non-tariff barriers that the partners imposed on the U.S. For decades, a country's been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far, both friend and foe alike, Trump said. I'm trying a new Trump thing. Holding up a chart of the new reciprocal tariffs, Trump cited the example of China, which he claimed charged U.S. products with an average 67% tariff. We're going to be charging China with a discounted reciprocal tariff, 34%, he said. They charge us, we charge them. How can anybody be upset? They will be, because we've never charged anybody anything. And then I hurt myself trying to think about that exchange. But the effective tariff on China will actually be higher, and some countries will now be tariffed higher than the duties they levy on U.S. imports. Chinese goods will face a 34% reciprocal tariff in addition to the 20% tariff that Trump imposed earlier, bringing the overall tariff on Chinese goods to 54%, close to his campaign promise of 60%. You're almost there, Trumpy. You're almost there, buddy. I see it. In 2024, China was the second largest trading partner of the U.S. How much will each country be tariffed? Well, this is like that Billy Joel song, like Algeria, Angola, Bangladesh, Bosnia, Botswana, Brunei, Cambodia. So, as we go through here, I wish we had some tariff music. So Cambodia at 49%. These up here, you're getting in the 30s. We want to see who the ass kissers are. Congo, the DRC 11%. Chad, Cameroon, they're low. Falkland Islands 42%. So, yeah, Iraq, 39%, Japan, 24%, Jordan. So if you're buddies, if you're palsies, you pay less. But like Madagascar, 47%. Myanmar just had an earthquake, 45%. Terrible. Sri Lanka, 44%. And yeah, it's like all these fucked up places. Vietnam 46, because why? Fuck them, that's why. Is that it? Okay. So yeah, apart from the 57 on the list announced Wednesday, Trump has also imposed a flat 10% tariff on products coming from almost all the other trading partners of the U.S. He did this by invoking the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977, which I wrote when I was drunk, and somehow it managed to become law. I was 8 years old at the time. I was a heavy drinker. So, all your favorites will face this 10% tariff rate. UK, Australia, all these people. Brazil, New Zealand. What about Canada and Mexico, you may be axing? While Canada and Mexico were not on the list of countries slapped with the latest tariffs, both U.S. neighbors already face heavy tariffs. They're like, you're already fucking me without KY jelly. Kameshwari Kate, Kameshwari Kate, Kameshwari Kate, woo woo. Just got home, I had to run to Chinatown to pick up some bakery items from Tommy Seven's whole grain. Sounds delicious. Yeah, so they're already getting fucked. In early March, Trump resurrected those tariffs. He exempted goods that fall. So yeah, and now what products are exempt? The exempt products include copper, pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, lumber articles, energy products, and certain critical minerals that are unavailable in the U.S. So those, come on, bring them in, son. Come on. Give me that copper. That's why you see people be stripping those power lines. Make sure you unplug it first. On March 26, Trump signed an executive order imposing 25% tariffs on auto imports and certain automobile parts. No additional tariffs on these products were announced on Wednesday. So it's not a terrific time for people who want to save money. You can thank your buddies. Why they're doing this? Who knows? But you know they're doing it. Why isn't this the way I want it? I want it this way now. Please? Why? This is the work of Satan. What the shit, dog? All right, I guess that's going to have to work. All right, so we already did that one. So yeah, wait a minute. We gotta check in. Breaking news. When news breaks, I clean it up. Oh, is that it? Oh, come on. I thought we had some live stock market shit. Come on. Is it, I just want to know if it's still shit in the bed, that's all. So, I ain't seeing nothing. I ain't seeing no biscuits. You pledge allegiance to the WWE and the cable TV system for which it stands. One sitcom under God with TV doctors and tariffs for all. I'll see you in heaven. All right, I don't see anything right now, so maybe we'll talk about it next week. Who knows? What are we doing here? Behind the scenes with a guy who doesn't know how to run his shit. Okay, I think we're okay. Is that? There we go. Okay, now we're back. We're back. All right. So U.S. and global stock markets plunge after new Trump tariffs. So what's the results of these tariffs, you may say? Oh, no. No.
The American and global.
No. I'm sure they're nice people. The American and global stock markets have plunged yesterday following Trump's announcements of a new 10% tariff on all imports to the U.S. The double-digit tariff hike sent shivers across world markets, with economists warning about the risk of recession. In the U.S., the S&P 500 fell 3% at the market opening. Dow Jones Industrial Average Futures lost 3.7%, and the Nasdaq slid 4.5%. Trump's announcement also hurt oil prices, which tumbled more than 4%. The U.S. dollar hit its lowest level against the yen from Japan since early October. On the old continent, European stocks closed 2.7% lower. Danish shipping giants Maersk, widely viewed as a barometer for world trade, was 9.5% lower. Dun, dun, dun. Trump's aggressive move brings the world one step closer to what experts say could become a global trade war. Several world leaders, including in the European Union, Canada, and China, have already announced their intention to retaliate against the U.S. with countermeasures. That's right. They'll be using photon torpedoes as opposed to the phasers that we've been using, right? No. Were you crazy? Why? Everything's weird. So, what's going on? It shouldn't be doing this. All right. I think, okay. Let's just turn that off for the moment. There we go. Sorry, gotta blind you for a second. So a new survey reveals 60% of Americans worried about the economy. I think it's more than that, to be honest with you. And for the other 40% said, economy, what economy? Public concern over the health of the U.S. economy is intensifying, with a new Gallup survey showing that 60% of Americans worry a great deal about the nation's economic trajectory. The figure marks an 8-point increase from last year, signaling a sharp rise in economic unease. Nail biting has gone up 79%. Conducted between March 3rd and 16th among 1,002 adults. The survey also revealed that 27% worry a fair amount, while only 3% said they are not concerned at all, those being Richie Pants McGillicuddies. Alongside economic concerns, Americans identified healthcare costs, inflation, and the federal budget deficit as major stress points, with 59%, 56%, and 52% respectively, listing them as key issues. The polling results came just one day after Trumpy unveiled a sweeping tariff plan that has further fueled anxieties. Trump signed an executive order imposing a 10% baseline tariff on all imported goods, as we told you, which is effective tomorrow, April 5th. A second phase will follow on the 9th, introducing steep reciprocal tariffs targeting countries with significant trade surpluses with the U.S., including a 54% cumulative tariff on Chinese imports, you scallywags. According to economic analysts, the administration's protectionist push could result in higher prices for American consumers, will result in higher prices, and a 1% increase in overall inflation. Some goods, such as automobiles, may see double-digit price hikes. So if you want to get that car, you better do it before tomorrow. The Wall Street Journal reports that these measures could significantly disrupt global supply chains, with tech and manufacturing sectors likely to be hit hardest. While the White House maintains that these tariffs are essential to reshaping trade dynamics and protecting American jobs, they're taking our jobs. Critics argue they could worsen the very economic conditions that Americans are increasingly worried about. According to the Washington Post, IRS officials are predicting a more than 10% decrease in tax revenue by the April 15th deadline. Oh, tick-tock, tick-tock. Earlier, World Trade Organization Director General Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala projected that U.S. tariffs implemented so far this year could reduce global merchandise trade by approximately 1% in 2025, marking a significant downward revision from earlier forecasts. Indeed, indeed. Wait, what is this? This is not what I ordered. Sorry. Everything going crazy. Why is this not working? How's everybody doing? You gonna do that? No? You gonna do that wackadoodle stuff? Yeah, I guess you are, aren't you? You son of a bitch. Oh, my Al Mayadeen, I love your content, but your website's a little wonky. Who else is in here? Who snuck in here besides you, Max and Kate? I think everybody's accounted for. All right, onward and upward. So, meanwhile, if you're into that Bitcoin shit, you might want to look into this. Bitcoin falls over 5% to 81K after U.S. tariff announcement. There it is. Bitcoin, I hardly knew her. She did like biting a lot. Probably a little too much. Bitcoin dropped sharply yesterday, shedding more than 5% in value as financial markets around the world responded to the U.S. government's latest trade move, an aggressive tariff strategy announced by Cuddles McGillicuddy. The price of the world's leading cryptocurrency fell to around $81,812 on Binance, marking a 5.93% drop within 24 hours. CoinMarketCap, which tracks data across multiple exchanges, reported a 5.46% decline, placing the average price at $81,769 as of 5:25 Greenwich Mean Time. And I mean it. Time. The losses come just months after Bitcoin hit an intraday high of $109,114.88 on January 20th. That's when Poo Poo Pants got he got inaugurated, marking a nearly 25% drop from its 2025 peak. Cryptocurrency's recent slide suggests a notable shift in sentiment as investors retreat from risk assets in light of deepening global economic uncertainty. In other words, Trump's fucking up the shit. all those Bitcoin people are just like, why I oughta? Oh, it's up to 82. Man, 108,000 though. That's the devil's work. What happened? So Canada has not taken this lightly. No siree, Bob. You can bet your bottom dollar. Canada unveils limited countermeasure against U.S. calls Trump move a tragedy. There he is right there. You hosers. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney announced a limited set of countermeasures against U.S. tariffs on Thursday, while calling President Donald Trump's protectionist moves a tragedy for global trade. Carney said the Canadian government will copy the U.S. approach by imposing a 25% tariff on all vehicles imported from the U.S. that are not compliant with the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade deal. What? You don't get cars that blow up? Canada? What's wrong with you? Where's your thrill seeker adventure lifestyle? The new measure will apply to $25.3 billion. I'm not doing that Canadian shit. Worth of imports, a government spokesperson said. It's American money or nothing, bruh. Carney also told a press conference that the new tariffs would not apply to auto parts and would not affect vehicle content from Mexico. So Mexico's like, come on, guys. We're good. It's these assholes. Given the prospective damage to their own people, the American administration should eventually change course. But I don't want to give false hope, Carney said, adding that it could take a long time for the U.S. to shift approach. Carney said Canada's previously announced tariffs would stay in place. Trump's new tariff sent shockwaves through markets on Thursday, as we told you. His 10% baseline levy on all U.S. imports, with much higher duties on some countries, encouraged investors to say, fuck that shit. Peace out, home slice. I'm Audi 5000 with a sunroof, as they worried Trump was upending global trade. The 80-year period when the United States embraced the mantle of global economic leadership, when it forged alliances rooted in trust and mutual respect, and championed the free and open exchange of goods and services, is over. This is a tragedy, Carney said, and then had some poutine that was delicious. The new countermeasures are in addition to 2 rounds of tariffs Canada has already imposed on a total of 80 to 50, about 60 billion Canadian worth of U.S. imports. So Canada's trying. Say, look, we trying. Y'all. You'll send those shitty cars up our way, but we'll take your car parts. Just keep the shitties away. Please and thank you. Maybe this will work now. Like you. Okay. So, and it's not just some of these, it's not just Canadians that are being affected by this, or the Mexicans. You know, it's people around the world, especially the ones that in these fucked up countries, right? So you got Asian countries riven by war and disaster face some of the steepest Trump tariffs. Why is that? Look at that. That definitely needs a tariff, that place. So, developing nations in Southeast Asia, including war-torn and earthquake-hit Myanmar and several African nations, are among the trading partners facing the highest tariffs set by Donald Trump, upending decades of U.S. trade policy and threatening to unleash a global trade war. The U.S. president announced a raft of tariffs on Wednesday that he said were designed to stop the U.S. economy from being, quote, cheated. This is our Declaration of Economic Independence. He called it Liberty Day. The tariffs come as many countries in Southeast Asia are already grappling with the fallout from cuts to U.S. aid, which provides humanitarian assistance to a region vulnerable to natural disasters, and support for pro-democracy activists battling repressive regimes. Can't have that. Cambodia, a developing economy where 17.8% of the population live below the poverty line, according to the Asian Development Bank, the ADB, is the worst hit country in the region with a tariff rate of 49%. More than half of the country's factories are reportedly Chinese-owned, with the country's exports dominated by garments and footwear. Next worst hit is the landlocked Southeast Asian nation of Laos, a country heavily bombed by the U.S. during the Cold War, with 48%. According to the ADB, Laos has a poverty rate of 18.3%. Not far behind is Vietnam with 46%, and Myanmar, a nation reeling from that earthquake on Friday and years of civil war following a 2021 military coup, with 44%. 'Cause sure, why not? Indonesia, the biggest economy in Southeast Asia, faces a 32% tariff rate, while Thailand, the second largest, has been hit with a rate of 36%. And it goes on with China with 34% on top of the 20% they already got. So Dr. Sawage Dharma Nagara, a senior fellow at the ISEAS Yusof Ishak Institute in Singapore, where I used to work before they caught me smoking cigarettes in the bathroom, said the tariffs on Southeast Asian nations were intended to hurt China. Of course. You can't just hurt the country, you got to hurt the surrounding countries too. The administration thinks that by targeting these countries, they can target Chinese investment in countries like Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Indonesia. By targeting their products, maybe it will affect Chinese exports and the economy, he said. The real target is China, but the real impact on those countries will be quite significant because this investment creates jobs and export revenue. Tariffs on countries such as Indonesia, he said, would be counterproductive for the U.S., and the detail of how they would be applied remains unclear. Some garments and footwear companies are American brands like Nike or Adidas. U.S. companies that have factories in Indonesia, will they face the same tariffs as well? Big question mark means I don't know. Probably. Stephen Olson, a former U.S. trade negotiator, said countries in Southeast Asia would be forced to reconsider their relationships with Washington. A closer tilt towards China could be the result. You and these fucking tariffs, I'm telling you. Oh, we got Teresa and Go Start and Kill Your Egregories. Hello. Hello, all my little tasty treats. So yeah, exactly. Of course, there's going to be a closer tilt towards China. It's hard to have constructive, productive relations with a country that has just dropped a ton of bricks on your head, said Olson, a visiting senior fellow at the ISEAS. The world's largest importer has now essentially hung a sign on its border saying closed for business. We are now faced with two plausible scenarios. Either the impacted trade partners hold firm and retaliate in the hope that Trump will be forced to back down, or they look to cut deals with Trump in order to avoid the tariffs. It's unlikely that either scenario will end well. Probably not. Other nations among the hardest hit are several nations in Africa, including Lesotho, a country that he's in my head. A country that Trump claimed, that's where the CL came from. I tried to combine Trump and claim, so I made clump. A country that Clump claimed nobody has ever heard of, with 50%. Madagascar with 47, Botswana with 37. Lesotho, a small mountainous kingdom surrounded by South Africa, has the second highest level of HIV infection of the world, with almost 1 in 4 adults HIV positive. In South Asia, Sri Lanka is facing a 44% tariff. In Europe, Serbia faces a 37% rate. In addition to the reciprocal tariffs on a few dozen countries, Trump will impose a 10% universal tariff, as we told you, as it goes into effect on the 5th, while the other tariffs begin on the 9th. So next week, so presidents justify the changes by saying they are retribution, saying they were cheated. Yeah. This is how you said it. Okay. So yeah, it's going to be a chain reaction with these tariffs, right? These are nothing to sneeze at, right? It's not going to affect us. It's going to affect the entire world, and what the world chooses to do in response to that, well, you're going to see it. Or at least you're going to start seeing it next week once they actually take effect. Possibly earlier as people prepare for it. More bad news in Myanmar, as the death toll now has crossed 3,000. It was just crossed 2,000 on Tuesday, but they knew it was going to be more. So weather officials warn unseasonal rain from Sunday to April 11th could threaten areas hardest hit by the earthquake. Yeah. Myanmar's devastating earthquake death toll has surpassed 3,000, with hundreds more missing. As forecasts of unseasonal rain presented a new challenge for rescue and aid workers trying to reach people in a country riven by civil war. The 7.7 magnitude quake of last Friday, one of the Southeast Asian nation's strongest in a century, jolted a region home to 28 million, toppling buildings, flattening communities, and leaving many without food, water, and shelter. Deaths rose to over 3,000 on Wednesday, with 4,515 injured and 351 missing, Myanmar's assembly in Japan said on Facebook, while rescuers scrambled to find more. But conditions could get even tougher for the huge relief effort after weather officials warned unseasonal rain from Sunday to April 11th could threaten the areas hardest hit by the quake, such as Mandalay, Sagaing, and the capital Naypyidaw. I butchered that. Was Naypyidaw. Yeah, rain is incoming, and there are still so many buried. An aid worker in Myanmar told Reuters, and in Mandalay especially, if it starts to rain, people who are buried will drown, even if they survived until this point. There have been 53 airlifts of aid to Myanmar, the embassy in Japan added in its post, while more than 1,900 rescue workers arrived from 15 countries, including Southeast Asian neighbors and China, India, and Russia. Despite the devastation, Junta Chief Min Aung Hlaing will leave his disaster-stricken country on Thursday for a rare trip to a regional summit in Bangkok, according to state television. It's an uncommon foreign visit for a general regarded as a pariah by many countries and the subject of Western sanctions and an international criminal court investigation. Well, you could just always leave the court. That's just like Hungary did, right? The rains will add to the challenges faced by aid and rescue groups, which have called for access to all affected areas despite the strife of civil war. The military has struggled to run Myanmar since its return to power in a 2021 coup that unseated the elected civilian government of Nobel laureate Aung San Suu Kyi. The generals have been internationally isolated since the takeover, and Myanmar's economy and basic services, including health care, have been reduced to tatters amid the strife. On Wednesday, state-run MRTV said a unilateral government ceasefire would take immediate effect for 20 days to support relief efforts after the quake, but warned authorities would respond accordingly if rebels launched attacks. The move came after a major rebel alliance declared a ceasefire on Tuesday to assist the humanitarian effort. Nearly a week after the quake, researchers in neighboring Thailand hunting for survivors combed a mountain of debris left after a skyscraper in the capital, Bangkok, collapsed while under construction. Rescuers are using mechanical diggers and bulldozers to break up 100 tons of concrete to locate any still alive after the disaster that killed 15 people, with 72 missing. Still, their nationwide death toll stands at 22. So you have civil war, and then an earthquake. Oh, now you have all these, all of these, the torrential rains. Yay, torrential rains! Woohoo! Yeah, to fuck up the works. But it seems like these tariffs might actually be good for your favorite country and mine, with that little guy with the funny mustache and the funny voice. Wait a minute. Not that guy. Ukraine's corn could benefit from U.S. tariffs, says one analyst. Let's see how that figures, Batman. Ukrainian corn, a key element in the country's grain sector, could benefit from the tariffs imposed by the U.S. as it is able to partially substitute for U.S. corn if retaliatory sanctions are imposed, analysts said on Thursday. Ooh. So Poopy Pants announced a 10% minimum tariff, as you know, with significantly higher duties on goods from dozens of countries, including China, which is likely to prompt countermeasures, potentially driving up prices. Ukraine is a major global corn grower and exporter. Oh, are you now? Yeah, they're big on corn. If key importers do end up imposing tariffs on U.S. corn, it will open a huge window of opportunity for alternative suppliers, ASAP Agri Consultancy said in a statement. Ukrainian corn is in a strong position here. Competitive pricing, stable logistics, and close ties with the European Union and Asian markets. And it just tastes delicious when you butter it up. The consultancy said Brazil is first in line, but its harvest cannot cover all the demand. And that is where Ukraine can step in and claim its share. Look at Ukraine like, your man can't fulfill you, baby. I got all the corn you want. I got all that corn, baby. Another consultancy, Barva Invest, said Ukraine perceives the U.S. as an export competitor in the grains and oilseeds market, not a trading partner, and potential counter restrictions by other countries on U.S. exports will have the greatest impact. It added that the EU, Australia, and China are most likely to impose such measures, which opens up strategic opportunities for Ukraine, where it competes directly with the U.S. First of all, this is the market for corn, soybeans, and wheat, more indirectly for rapeseed or rapeseed. That ain't rapeseed. Stop it. That ain't real. Sunflower oil and barley, Barva Invest said on Telegram Messenger. I'm going to call it Rappas because you can't say that. Ukraine produced 32 million metric tons of corn in 2023 and 26 million tons in 2024. The country exported almost 30 million tons in the 2023-2024 season and is likely to ship abroad 22 million tons in the 2024-2025 season, according to the UCAB Business Association. Farmers are likely to increase areas sown for corn. This year's corn export prices are lucrative. Ukraine also harvested a record 6.2 million tons of soybeans in 2024, and around half of the volume could be exported this season. Ukraine's 2025 soybean crop could be between 5.8 and 6.2 million tons, and the final volume will depend on the presence or absence of rain in May and June. Corn! Corn! Yes. Corn porn. I know, when you're the king of corn, though. Just saying. King of corn. He who rules the corn rules the popcorn. Rules the corn on the cob. Rules the high fructose corn syrup. Delicious. Well, we told you earlier about storms that have been going through the country there. I think more so today. As at least two dead as violent storms batter central eastern United States. So yeah, man. Shit ain't no joke, man. Fierce storms stretching up and down the central eastern United States killed at least 2 people overnight, spawning tornadoes and violent thunderstorms that are expected to persist into yesterday and into today, too. The Tennessee Department of Health reported 2 fatalities in the state's west as residents sheltered from the raging weather. The storm damaged buildings, toppled trees, down power lines, overturned cars, and lifted roofs off homes across a vast swath of the United States, photos on social and local media revealed. The system, which stretched from Arkansas northeastward into Ohio, produced heavy rains and flash flooding that forecasters say could last for days. A multi-day, potentially historic heavy rainfall event may produce catastrophic and life-threatening flooding through Saturday, according to the National Weather Service. Before the storm's arrival in Kentucky, Governor Andy Beshear warned residents that the state was facing one of the most serious weather events we've had forecast. Damaging winds and isolated tornadoes were possible into Thursday night. The National Weather Service in Louisville, the state's largest city, warned. As of Thursday, electricity was out for nearly 400,000 customers across the central eastern United States, according to the poweroutage.us website. A variety of damaging weather is expected in the coming days. All modes of severe weather will be possible. The National Weather Service office in Little Rock, Arkansas, reported yesterday, including very large hail, strong gusty winds, and even a few tornadoes. Warning of unsettled weather, the National Weather Service in Lincoln, Illinois, posted on the tweeters that said severe storms, including hail and damaging wind gusts, were possible into today. So if you're in those areas, please take care of yourself. Seek shelter. Don't stay in those areas that if you can get to a basement or a root cellar, that's good too. But yeah, these things are getting super, like a mile wide, like F5 tornadoes. And that's the feeding grounds right there from Arkansas right up there to Ohio. Usually you get the nice tornado alley there, but now it just seems to be stretching into more of the Rust Belt area. Well, if you're into liberal Supreme Court judges winning their seats, I guess we got some good news for you there. As Wisconsin elects a liberal Supreme Court judge in a setback for Trump. Womp, 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 womp. So this was the one that Elon Musk was putting checks out for, like little contests. Donald Trump's second presidency was dealt a spinning blow by voters in Wisconsin on Tuesday as they elected a liberal judge to the state Supreme Court, despite his billionaire advisor Elon Musk pouring millions into the race to sway the polls. Liberal Judge Susan Crawford soundly defeated Trump-backed Brad Schimmel with more than 95% of the vote tallied, according to U.S. media. This is from the New Arab. Wisconsin stood up and said loudly that justice does not have a price. Maybe cheese does. Maybe cheese is your price. Crawford said in her victory speech after the most expensive judicial contest in U.S. history. Republicans had pursued an all-out effort to flip the Wisconsin State Supreme Court, which rules on things like voting district boundaries, with Musk pouring $25 million into the race and traveling to Wisconsin. The long con of the left is corruption of the judiciary, Musk posted on his social media platform as results poured in. Trump appeared to ignore the outcome on social media, highlighting a separate Wisconsin ballot initiative requiring voters to present photo identification to cast a ballot. Voter ID just approved in Wisconsin election. This is a big win for Republicans, maybe the biggest win of the night, he posted on Truth Social. And as he celebrated a pair of House races in Florida on the same day where two deeply conservative districts stayed in Republican hands, even if the margins were narrower than in 2024. So he's only got like a 5 or 6 votes more in the House, I think. 218 to 212, I think. I don't know. There's some math involved. Musk, who has spearheaded Trump's attempts to gut much of the U.S. government in a right-wing cost-cutting drive, had personally campaigned for Schimmel. I think Musk may be on his way out. The highlight of his weekend visit to the upper Midwestern state reprised a tactic seen during his efforts to help Trump defeat Kamala Harris, handing out money to anyone who signed a petition against so-called activist judges. Progressive Senator Bernie Sanders got on Twitter and just basically said, please, now that my friend Joe is not president, please reject the oligarchy. You couldn't have said that before, Bernie. After Crawford's win, he said Wisconsin defeated the wealthiest person on earth. So in Florida, 2 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives were up for grabs. So that was the ones to fill the Mike Waltz and Matt Gaetz seats. On Tuesday evening, U.S. media called the race for Florida's 6th district in favor of Republican Randy Fine, with Trump tweeting, "Congrats, Randy. A great win against a massive cash avalanche," which was funny because the lady had the cash avalanche against her in Wisconsin. Shortly after, media outlets also called this. Okay, so you get the gist there. We're trying not to linger on these too much. We have more world news, and then we'll get to our thing, our propaganda watch. We have a few of those in there too. So in Sudan, at least 89 have been killed in paramilitary attacks there.
Dozens killed across several villages in the Sudanese city of Omdurman at the hands of the Rapid Support Forces. That's according to the Emergency Lawyers Association. The humanitarian organization accuses the paramilitary group of killing at least 89 people and injuring many more after carrying out random artillery shelling and direct gunfire. Attacks that the Emergency Lawyers Association has slammed as a flagrant violation of human rights and international law. Many have been forced to escape the violence, fleeing to the Jabal Aliya area. It's further evacuations in a country already in the grips of the largest displacement crisis in the world. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, the RSF continues to suffer setbacks. Since the beginning of the year, the army has seized Sana'a, Al Jazeera and White Nile State, as well as the capital Khartoum, giving it control of the center of Sudan. Unabated by the army's advance, the RSF is now pushing to capture towns like Al-Obed and the area of South Kordofan. The paramilitary's number 2, Abderrahim Dargo, also threatening to attack northern state and Nile State. With most of Sudan now in its hands, regaining control of Darfur is the army's next target.
Yeah, so Sudan is really starting to fall apart too. Though many more were injured in the attack, they saw the paramilitary group carry out random artillery shelling. Many have fled to the Jabal Aliya area in hopes of finding safety. So Sudan is already in the grips of the largest displacement crisis to date. An estimated 8.8 million people have been forced from their homes to camps and other locations within Sudan. 3.5 million more have fled across borders. So we talk about, what's going on in Palestine, and it just seems more concentrated with all the deaths and whatnot. But this is going on in Sudan as well. And in Niger as well, too, as Niger frees dozens detained after a coup, including former top officials. So, so get this here. The announcement was made on national television on Tuesday, where a government official said the decision was in line with the recommendations of the national consultations for reform held in February. In July 2020, the July 2023 coup brought General Abdurrahmani Tiani, that's a hell of a name, former head of the Presidential Guard, to power. Dozens of people were arrested in the weeks that followed, including members of the ousted civilian government and figures accused of plotting against the state. Ousted President Mohamed Bazoum remains in detention. His legal immunity has been lifted, but no trial date has been set. Several former cabinet members were named among those released. They include Mahamani Sani Isufu, former oil minister and son of ex-president Mahamadou Isufu, who governed from 2011 to 2021. Also freed were Kala Mutari, former defense minister, Ahmed Dejdoud, former finance minister, and Ibrahim Yakubu, who held the energy portfolio. These people have been set free in accordance with recommendations from the National Reform Conference, the TV announcement said. The names of those released were read out for several minutes. The list of freed detainees extends beyond former cabinet members. Fumakoye Gado, who leads the PNDS party that previously held power, was freed alongside journalist Ousmane Toudo and Alat Mogaskia, Niger's former ambassador to Nigeria. Many have been held in prisons across the country. Several were accused of conspiracy aimed at harming the security and authority of the state. You busting up our propaganda. Though the government did not say whether charges have been dropped or suspended, several military officers previously convicted of attempting coups during the 2010s were among those granted freedom. General Soleimani, a former armed forces chief of staff, and 3 other officers who've been sentenced in 2018 to up to 15 years in prison for attempting to overthrow Isufu in 2015 have been released. Their release was also presented as part of the February recommendations made during the national consultations, a political process launched by the junta after it seized power. The government has not said whether more releases are planned. It beats killing them, I think, in any respect. So, so Pentagon now to investigate Signalgate. That's right, Go Start. It's happening, maybe, but we'll see to what effect. So you may have heard about the Jewish students who chained themselves to the Columbia fence. Apparently, that's seen as anti-Semitic because they're Jewish, and well, you know how that goes.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these things they think are true without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
All right, Jewish students chain themselves to Columbia fence to protest Khalil detention. So Jewish Columbia University students had chained themselves to a fence on campus for 45 minutes on Wednesday in protest of the school's cooperation with immigration agents to arrest a leader of last year's pro-Palestinian encampment. When New York City police officers, NYPD thugs, arrived to break up the nonviolent action. One student identified as Shay, who was wearing a kippah with a watermelon design and a keffiyeh, the symbols of Palestinian solidarity, told independent journalist Maynard Bose that university trustees are directly implicated in ICE targeting of Mahmoud Khalil, a former student who helped lead negotiations demanding Columbia's divestment from Israel last year. Shea said trustees handed over the names of Khalil and other pro-Palestinian students at Columbia to the government. We're here in protest to that to demand that the university tell us which trustees, which members of the university administrations are responsible for this so we can demand immediate consequences for them and hold them accountable for what they've done to our peer, said the undergraduate students. So they want to know, they want names. They want these names of the people, these trustees. Shea added that Jewish students were leading the protest because the attacks on our international students, on students of color, have been so fierce, so dangerous, so disproportionate that we are the only students who can be here right now taking this risk. Plainclothes ICE agents abducted Khalil last month as he was returning home to his apartment in a Columbia-owned building with his pregnant wife. The agents refused to identify themselves, and ultimately Khalil was sent to an ICE detention facility in Louisiana. Khalil is an Algerian citizen of Palestinian descent and had a green card, which has reportedly been revoked by the Trump administration, while his wife, who is pregnant with their first child, is a U.S. citizen. A federal court in New Jersey ruled Tuesday that the challenge to ICE's unlawful detention of Khalil should continue in the state. His wife responded that this is an important step towards securing Mahmoud's freedom, but there's still a lot more to be done. As the countdown to our son's birth begins and I inch closer and closer to my due date, I will continue to strongly advocate for Mahmoud's freedom and for his safe return home so he can be by my side to welcome our first child. Khalil was detained days after the Trump administration announced it was canceling $400 million in grants and contracts for Colombia in retaliation for what it claimed was a failure to address anti-Semitism on campuses. Yeah, you didn't do enough of the other anti-Semitism. Yeah. The Trump administration has conflated expressions of support for Palestinian rights on college campuses with attacks on Jewish students, as did the Biden administration before it. Indeed, Colombia oversaw an aggressive response to the protests last year, allowing NYPD officers to drag students out of a building they occupied and unofficially renamed Hines Hall after Hind Rashab, a 6-year-old girl who was killed by Israeli forces in Gaza. And an analysis of last year's pro-Palestinian campus protests, many of which were led by Jewish students, found that 97% of them were nonviolent. A Barnard College student identified as Tally said Wednesday that as Jewish students, we grew up learning about the rise of fascism, learning about how important it is to stand up when you see injustices in the world. Campus security quickly cordoned off the area where students had chained themselves to the fence. After the NYPD arrived, security officers used bolt cutters to remove the protesters from the fence. Bose reported that in a sudden escalation, Columbia campus security aggressively engaged student protesters and tried to take away a banner reading "Free Mahmoud Khalil." Love and solidarity to these courageous Jewish students who have chained themselves to the gates of Columbia in protest of the university turning over their friend Mahmoud Khalil to a fascist administration, said Simone Zimmerman, co-founder of the Jewish-led group If Not Now. The students, said Zimmerman, are taking risks today that they know most of their peers cannot. Yeah, standing up for, there's a lot of Jewish people out there who are saying, what the Zionists are doing is not what I call regular ass Jews are doing, right? You can separate regular ass Jews from the Zionists, and not all Zionists are Jewish, right? You have Christian Zionists in there too. This is probably not going to be a surprise to you at all, but Israel's war on Gaza is the worst ever conflict for journalists, according to a new report. You already know this, but at least you get some reference to it in numbers. Columbia Student Heroes. Yeah, exactly, Ghost Art. Israel's war on Gaza has been the worst ever conflict for journalists, with at least 208 Palestinian media workers killed since October 2023, according to a report by the Watson Institute for International and Public Affairs. The report, titled New Graveyards, How Dangers to War Reporters Endanger the World, said the Israeli assault on the Gaza Strip since October 2023 had killed more journalists than the U.S. Civil War, World Wars I and II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, including the conflicts in Cambodia and Laos, the wars in Yugoslavia in the 90s and 2000s, and the post-9/11 war in Afghanistan combined. So since the Civil War, we haven't killed as many reporters as we have since less than 2 years. In 2023, a journalist or media worker was on average killed or murdered every 4 days. In 2024, it was once every 3 days, according to the report. Most reporters harmed or killed, as in the case in Gaza, are local journalists. But last week, Mohammed Mansour, correspondent for Palestine Today, and Hossam Shabbat, a journalist for Al Jazeera, Mubashir, were killed by Israel in 2 separate attacks. Their deaths brought the total number of Palestinian press workers killed by the Israeli army since October 2023 to 2008, already up to 2011, 211 Ghost Start. Government media office in the Gaza Strip said it condemned in the strongest terms the targeting, killing, and assassination of Palestinian journalists by the Israeli occupation. Shabbat is the latest Al Jazeera journalist to be killed in Israel's war, joining Samer Abu Naka, Hamza al-Dadu, Ismail al-Ghul, and Ahmed al-Lu. Al Jazeera affirms its commitment to pursue all legal measures to prosecute the perpetrators of these crimes against journalists. Legal measures, yeah. Yeah, you're probably going to need more than that at this point. It said that it renewed its commitment to covering events in Gaza despite the ongoing targeting and harassment faced by its journalists. Israel's military admitted to killing Shabbat, accusing him of being a terrorist, who it had now eliminated. The Watson Institute report also cited the conflict in Syria, which saw hundreds of journalists and media workers killed at the hands of the government and armed groups. According to the Syrian Network for Human Rights, 700 journalists and media activists were killed in Syria over 10 years. The Watson Institute report warned that the threat against journalists in war zones across the world was not only putting individuals at risk, but also impairing news coverage and the worldwide information ecosystem. Exactly. Well, yeah, why do you think they're killing these journalists? To keep them from reporting the actual truth. The decreasing number of experienced foreign correspondents in conflict zones due to long-term shifts in the global news industry that have led to the deprioritization of international news coverage and the closure of foreign news bureaus has likewise crippled critical knowledge and helped facilitate the creation of news graveyards, said the report. That's why independent news is so important. Independent media, you have more and more popping up every day. You just don't know who they are. But we have to keep that alive, and through video, sharing information that way at a moment's notice, that helps too. At least for the credibility of news, when you say, "Hey, look, this just happened. Here, it's on the phone. Check it out." But scrutinize everything. You remember Bernie Sanders? You remember that guy? You remember Bernie? Yeah, Bernie Sanders, that guy. Well, he's been leading this campaign against oligarchs, right? That he wasn't doing when his buddy Joe Biden was president. So he's been doing this, and he's been doing these half-assed efforts to block bomb shipments to Israel, right? Well, at least he's trying that. Is he really? Because, womp, womp, womp. Senate kills Bernie Sanders' effort to block bomb shipments to Israel. I put this in here because this is just, he knew this shit was going to get blocked, right? But again, this is all this shit's hollow because he didn't do this shit when his buddy was boss. Yesterday, the Senate killed an effort by Bernie Sanders to block $8.8 billion in bombs and other munitions shipments to Israel, a vote that came on the same day Israel killed more than 100 Palestinians, including many children, in the Gaza Strip. Sanders introduced 2 resolutions, one to block a $2.04 billion deal for 35,000 Mk-84 2,000-pound bombs and 4,000 IA-2000 Predator warheads, and one to block the $6.75 billion shipment of 2,800, these bombs and shit. The measure failed in a vote of 15 to 83 and 15 to 82. Only 14 Democrats joined Sanders in supporting the legislation, and no Republicans supported the effort, because why would they? That would be silly. Israel has bombed indiscriminately, killing civilians, journalists, paramedics, children, and humanitarian workers in record numbers, Sanders said in remarks on the Senate floor before the vote. They've used massive 2,000-pound bombs in densely populated Gaza, despite the fact studies show that 90% of victims of explosive weapons used in a populated area are civilians. It's because they're targeting civilians, you moron. Sanders pointed out that the U.S. military aid to Israel is illegal under foreign assistance laws that ban providing weapons to countries violating the international law and blocking humanitarian aid. Again, where were you this whole time? When your boy was in there, the Foreign Assistance Act and the Arms Exports Control Act, that what we're talking about today, are very clear. The U.S. cannot provide weaponry to countries that violate internationally recognized human rights or block human. So that's just another. I told you. I mean, I didn't tell you. You guys already knew. But yeah. What's up, Stephanie? Good to see you. Hey, Frank. What's up, man? So tired of people pushing Bernie to this day. No different from libs pushing Dems or conservatives bootlegging. I know. It's like at least he would have had some credibility of consistency if he had done this when Biden was president. But him and AOC going out on this oligarch, stop the oligarch tour. Come on. That's some 2016 shit that nobody gives a fuck about. What the hell is this? Did not need this. Hello. Okay. Meanwhile, Germany is not one to back down from innovation, especially when it comes to deporting people. So Germany adopts illegal Trump-style deportation of pro-Palestine activists because, yeah, man, this is the way to do it. The Berlin Senate, an executive body in the German capital, is trying to deport 4 pro-Palestinian activists without a hearing or formal criminal charges in an unprecedented move that critics say is illegal and mirrors the draconian deportations being ordered by the Trump administration. According to German authorities, these measures, which involve 3 EU nationals, 2 Irish, 1 Polish, and 1 U.S. citizen, are necessary because they threaten national security, but the activists' legal team insists that the German state is trampling on free speech rights and using lower-level laws to crack down on pro-Palestinian and anti-war activism. What? Come on, you can't be serious. The Germans? The 4, 2 of whom identify as trans, have been given up until April to leave Germany with a ban on re-entry and residence for 3 years after. All 4 individuals allegedly participated in a pro-Palestine protest camp in the courtyard of the Freie Universität Berlin, which had called for a stop to Israel's war on Gaza. Individuals appealing deportation are typically allowed to remain in Germany while their cases are processed. In this instance, the authorities have opted for an expedited removal, a decision which their legal team says is highly unusual. One of the activists, Kasia Wazic, says that as a trans guy, it will be difficult to find the same access to health care. My girlfriend, closest friends, which I consider my family and my political community, are all here in Berlin. Meanwhile, another activist, Cooper Longbottom, describes returning to the U.S., where Trump is violently cracking down on pro-Palestinian solidarity and rolling back on LGBTQ plus protections, as very scary. For the sole reason of protesting Germany's complicity in the ongoing genocide in Palestine, Berlin Senate Department for the Interior and Sport has ordered our expulsion, arbitrarily accusing us of anti-Semitism and supporting terrorist organizations, referring to Hamas. Of course, it's always Hamas, as well as its front organizations in Germany and Europe, said the activists in a statement. Not one of us has a criminal record, the statement added. In internal emails seen by the New Arab between Senate Department for the Interior and Sport and the Berlin Senate, Foreign Office workers contested the legality of the Berlin Senate's deportation request, but to no avail. The decisions of the Foreign Office are politically motivated because it's very unusual to take away the right to stay in Germany on such a weak basis. It is all about mere accusations of minor crimes in the context of protests and demonstrations in solidarity with Palestine, said lawyer Benjamin Duisberg, one member of the 5-person legal team representing the activists. The German police accused the activists of spreading anti-Semitic hatred and incitement. The document refers to anti-Israeli hatred as a criminal offense. The activists are also accused of a range of offenses, including resisting arrest, disturbing the peace, and damage to public property. The legal team said the deportation decision is unprecedented. The legal threshold to expel people is much higher. You have to determine that a person possesses a severe danger to, or poses a severe danger to public security, and this isn't established at all in the cases of our clients. To make matters worse, all suspensive effects of the appeals may have been stripped away, meaning that if the court rejects our complaints, our clients could face immediate deportation. This is not just a legal failure. It's a grave injustice with life-altering consequences for those affected. Lasizik called the letters an intimidation tactic as part of a broader repression against Palestine solidarity in Berlin and more broadly in Germany. In the decisions that were issued, the Foreign Office explicitly refers to the Staatsrassen, the reasons of the state, a notion which doesn't have a legal basis at all. This also confirms the political motivation for the decisions and their lack of legal foundation. This is definitely illegal. So basically, that just wraps it up right there. It's just basically illegal. You don't have too many. Let's see. Yeah, we got this next one. Cory, you remember Cory Booker? Remember that guy? U.S. Senator Cory Booker comes under fire for failing to mention Gaza once in 25-hour-long anti-Trump speech. Hopefully we'll not have to go through the 25 hours of listening to him. But there he is. He said, I ain't going to mention him. Not me. Not gonna. So U.S. Democratic Senator Cory Booker, who delivered a 25-hour-long speech in protest at President Donald Trump's attacks on democracy, has come under fire for not mentioning Israel's brutal war on Gaza or Trump's attacks on pro-Palestinian protesters one single time. The New Jersey senator was inspired to do the speech after receiving letters from constituents, the stunt, who had been harmed by Trump's policies. However, as many on social media pointed out, nowhere in the 25-hour-long speech did Booker mention any of the Palestinian Americans who have been affected by Trump and, more widely, U.S. policy in supporting Israel as it carried out a genocide in Gaza. And you know what's happening, killing scores of people every day. The Trump administration has come under particular fire for its open support for ethnically cleansing Gaza of Palestinians, something Booker failed to mention. Didn't cross my mind. How could I remember such things? I can't remember all the time. I need my memory pills. He spoke for 25 hours and never mentioned Palestine once, wrote one user on social media site. The tweeters, Craig Mockaber, a human rights lawyer in the U.S., took 2 tweeters to decry Booker for what he characterized as hypocrisy. In 25 hours of performative nonsense, lobby-paid shill of the Israeli regime, Senator Cory Booker, Ooh, I like this guy already. Did not have a single word to say about the genocide in Palestine, one funded and defended by the very body he was addressing, he wrote. Outside the chamber, the slaughter in Gaza continued throughout his speech. Booker is not a voice of reason or decency. He is a supporter of genocide and a symbol of the corruption, deception, and decadence of the U.S. Congress, he added. Booyah. Booker also came under fire for saying he would use his speech in Congress to draw attention to the civil rights abuses of the Trump administration, yet he failed to mention Trump's crackdown on the civil rights of pro-Palestine protesters and scholars. Not those people, Booker was saying off the cuff. Since Trump took office, the U.S. government has used its immigration enforcement powers to crack down on international students and scholars at several American universities who had participated in pro-Palestinian demonstrations or criticized Israel over its military action in Gaza, or just mentioned Israel in passing. Last month, Trump began his crackdown by using federal immigration forces to literally abduct a Palestinian green card holder. Since then, dozens of others have been detained and deported or forced to leave the U.S. due to their pro-Palestinian views. Critics noted that Booker, who wore an Israeli hostage solidarity pin, aw, aren't you precious? Bet you look so cute, railed against anti-Semitism and boasted about the Abraham Accords during his speech, didn't mention this unprecedented attack on civil rights once. Alas, Cory Booker spoke for 25 hours but couldn't find time to mention Mahmoud Khalil or any of the other 300-plus college students being deported by Trump for pure political speech, or Trump's open embrace of ethnic cleansing in Gaza. Courage, but per usual terms and conditions apply, someone wrote on the tweeters. Booker is a long-standing supporter of Israel, with him known to be one of the many members of the U.S. Congress to be monetarily funded by pro-Israeli lobbies. What? In December of last year, Booker caused controversy after posing for photos with Yoav Gallant, after the former Israeli defense minister was charged by the International Criminal Court with potential war crimes and crimes against humanity. Writing on Facebook, U.S. international relations scholar Stephen Zunes was quick to point this out in light of Booker receiving adulation from the liberal media for his anti-Trump speech. Folks, I know we are desperate for heroes, for people who recognize the urgency of the moment and are willing to take even a symbolic stand. We need to work with just about anyone in order to stop Trump, Zunes began. At the same time, I have a hard time getting excited about Senator Cory Booker, and who can blame you? Given his support for the likes of Yoav Gallant, indicted by the ICC for the war crime of starvation as a method of warfare, and the crimes against humanity of murder, persecution, and other inhumane rights. You know, come on. He's just, he's just funded by him. It's not like he's starving people, right? Cory Booker. See, that's the kind of shit you're going to get. And then these other cats, too. Who's that cat? That Richie Torres? He's like, AIPAC. Don't forget the back of my throat. So I figured you should know this since you're fine folks. And I'm just stalling here while I do something really quick. That should be all right. It's so much light. I put this. So Australia is going to be cracking down on supermarket price gouging, but ahead of the election. That's the timing is everything when it comes to propaganda. See, look what we're doing before the election. This guy, he's Australian. He wouldn't make it 5 minutes in the outback. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese vowed on Sunday to outlaw supermarket price gouging with a threat of heavy fines as he campaigns ahead of the closely contested May 3rd general elections. He goes, those shrimps on your barbie are a bit too much. We're going to bring those prices down, mate. The proposed crackdown on supermarkets, along with an unexpected income tax cut, is part of a series of government initiatives aimed at easing cost of living pressures, a key concern for voters. Recent polls indicate a tight race between the center-left government and the conservative opposition. Australians deserve a fair go at the checkout. We will hold the big supermarket chains to account, Albanese told reporters, pledging to introduce legislation within the year. Price gouging is when supermarkets ought to take the piss. They're taking the piss! Heavy fines will come. Asked how violations would be handled, Albanese said, heavy fines to make sure that they know that if they're ripping people off, then they're in the gun to pay a heavy penalty. What is this Australia shit? The government plans to establish a task force comprising representatives from the Treasury, competition regulators, and consumer groups to address the issue. Albanese noted that Australia was examining overseas models, including those in Britain and the European Union, for regulating unfair pricing practices. Australia's grocery sector is among the most concentrated in the world, with Coles and Woolworths dominating the market and exerting significant influence over pricing in both consumers and suppliers. Competition regulators reported this month that the two major retailers had been increasing profit margins and had limited incentive to compete vigorously with each other on price. James Patterson, a senior member of the opposition Liberal Party, criticized Albanese for failing to define price gouging. We are happy to make price gouging illegal, he told public broadcaster ABC. However, the opposition also plans to introduce targeted divestment powers, which could be used as a last resort if supermarkets abuse their market power. See their market power, get it? According to opposition leader Peter Dutton. Dutton had proposed cost of living measures, including a one-year cut to gasoline tax and a scheme requiring gas producers to reserve a portion of output for the domestic market. Annual consumer price inflation stood at 2.4% in the final quarter of last year, down from a peak of 7.8% in 2022. So I guess that's good. A YouGov poll released Sunday showed support for the ruling Labour Party and the conservative opposition coalition nearly tied, with Labour at 50.2% and the opposition at 49.8% on a two-party preferred basis. Two-party preferred. That's right. The old duopoly, it worked for you. If reflected in the election, these numbers would result in a hung parliament, with Labour falling one seat short of a majority. However, the survey suggested that the government would still be in a strong position to remain in power. Indeed. So finally, I don't know if this is propaganda, but I just think this is just plain wrong. That I know some Chinese ladies and gentlemen. They're very fine folks. And if I was going to be banned from dating them, I would have to really have to rethink my job opportunities. As U.S. Embassy staff in China banned from dating the locals. Hands off. Oh, look at that chocolate box. It's empty. Washington has banned its diplomatic personnel in China, as well as their family members and contractors with security clearances, from engaging into any sort of romantic and sexual relations. Ooh, how delicious. With Chinese citizens, AP reported yesterday, citing 4 people with direct knowledge of the matter. The policy was reportedly enacted by departing U.S. Ambassador Nicholas Burns in January, days before U.S. President Donald Trump took office. It expanded on a policy introduced last summer that prohibited staff at the U.S. Embassy and 5 consulates from engaging in intimate relations with Chinese guards and other supporting personnel. The AP said that it was not able to determine how exactly, quote, romantic and sexual relations, unquote, were defined by the policy. The latest changes have effectively turned the policy into a blanket non-fraternization approach reminiscent of the Cold War era, the agency reported. The change has been communicated verbally and through electronic mail to the staffers, but was never publicly announced, the sources said. Only U.S. personnel with pre-existing relations with Chinese nationals are subject to individually reviewed exemptions. Ooh, what's up, Yipper? Spirit of the age, what's up? Good to see you. Good to see you. Should an exemption be denied, they are obliged to end their relationship, the sources claimed. Anyone found in violation of the policy will be ordered to leave China and return home immediately. Western intelligence agencies, particularly those of the U.S. and the U.K., have long warned diplomatic workers and private individuals alike against engaging in relationships with Chinese nationals. But Chinese women are so hot. That's fucked up, man. That's some good-looking women. I mean, I'm just saying. The intelligence services have repeatedly accused Beijing of running a vast honey trap spy network, because they got a lot of honeys, composed primarily of attractive females who allegedly target foreign nationals, engaging in long-term relationships with them and ultimately pressuring them into cooperations with Beijing. But they say, like, they're making it sound like there ain't hot women everywhere. You could do it. You could be in Russia. It's like, don't mess with the Russian women. Natasha. Ooh. I'm just saying, why are you picking on China? While no solid evidence of such activities has ever been presented, the lead buried, China has repeatedly denied the allegations and accused Western intelligence services of merely projecting their own disgraceful acts onto the country. You dirty, dirty ass Americans and your shit. So that's your propaganda watch. If I'm working overseas, I'm just saying, I ain't looking for it, but if it finds me, what am I to do? I'm just, it's like Robert Palmer said, might as well face it, you're addicted to love. Them girls back there playing the bass. What's up? Yipper knows what's up. Y'all know. I'm just saying, man. Bachman Turner Overdrive said it best when they said any lovin's good lovin'. So I took what I could get. I took what I could get. Finally today, folks, these you think these tariffs would stop at certain borders, like where there ain't no people, right? How are you gonna tariff people? They ain't got no money, or ain't got no people. But apparently that's what's happening. As nowhere on earth is safe, Trump imposes tariffs on uninhabited islands near Antarctica. All right. So all that's getting taxed. These guys, look, you motherfuckers, y'all been sliding too long. Literally. Time to pay the rent. A group of barren, uninhabited volcanic islands near Antarctica, covered in glaciers and home to penguins, has been swept up in Donald Trump's trade war as the U.S. president hit them with a 10% tariff on goods. Exporting penguins, you get to pay the price. Heard Island on McDonald Islands, which form an external territory of Australia, are among the remotest places on Earth, accessible only via a 2-week boat voyage from Perth on Australia's west coast. They're completely uninhabited, with the last visit from people to believed to be nearly 10 years ago. Nevertheless, Heard and McDonald Islands featured in a list released by the White House of countries that would have new trade tariffs imposed. The Australian Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, said on Thursday, nowhere on earth is safe. Heard Island and McDonald Islands are among several external territories of Australia listed separately in the tariff list to Australia, which will see a 10% tariff imposed on its goods. External territories are part of Australia and not self-governing, but have a unique relationship with the federal government. Such territories featured on the White House list were from the Cocos, the Keeling Islands, Christmas Island. That's not real. There ain't no. Is that where Santa lives? If Santa don't live on Christmas Island, that's bullshit. And Norfolk Island. Norfolk Island, which has a population of 2,188 people and lies 1,600 kilometers, about 1,000 miles northeast of Sydney, was slugged with tariffs of 29%, 19 percentage points higher than the rest of Australia. Why? Because fuck them, that's why. In 2023, Norfolk Island exported 655,000 American worth of goods to the U.S., with its main export being 413,000 worth of leather footwear. Ooh, according to Observatory of Economic Complexity data. But George Plant, the administrator, I thought that was a plant name. But George Plant, the administrator of Norfolk Island, disputed the data. He told The Guardian there are no known exports from Norfolk Island to the U.S. and no tariffs or known non-tariff trade barriers on goods coming to Norfolk Island. I don't know about that. Albany said on Thursday Norfolk Island has got a 29% tariff. I'm not quite sure that Norfolk Island, with respect to it, is a trade competitor with the giant economy of the U.S., but that just shows and exemplifies the fact that nowhere on earth is safe from this. So look at all this. This is like some shit. And then it's like, y'all going to get taxed in these Cocos, Christmas Island. Yeah, Santa's getting a tax. Norfolk, these motherfuckers, this guy down here, your mom up here in Cleveland. Everybody's getting it. You stupid if you don't think you ain't getting it. The export figures from Heard Island and McDonald's Islands are even more perplexing. The territory does have a fishery, but no buildings or human habitation whatsoever. Despite this, according to export data from the World Bank, the U.S. imported $1.4 million worth of products from Heard Island and McDonald Islands in 2022, nearly all of which was machinery and electrical imports. It was not immediately clear what those goods were. Maybe they were robots. They were robot fish and robot penguins. Those robots. All right, we're done with that story. Fuck that. So anyway, why you got to tax penguins? What the fuck they do to you? Nobody cares. Not anymore. Yeah, I can turn that off now. Whew. I was getting fried. No more running to Micronesia for freedom. Yeah, no, what? That penguin's been on a free ride for too long. You better pony up that dough, kid. What's up, Wesley? Black Ops. That's right, man. You go down to Antarctica to get the thing is down there. Sorry, we gotta tariff you the thing. Anyway, that was some silly shit. I'm sorry you had to see that. But hopefully you'll see this. This is tomorrow night. The old secret show there at midnight Eastern, 8 p.m. 9 p.m. Pacific time, and where we play wacky shows and goof offs and funsies, and then hopefully you have something better to do. If you do it, please. But if not, come by and see us for more of that. That's tomorrow night. on the Old Secret Show. This show will be back next Tuesday as we delve further into April with magic and mystery for everyone. Thank you for everything today. I appreciate all the support, you guys watching wherever you're watching, on YouTube, Rumble, Rockfin, Facebook. Appreciate you. Love each and every one of you. We have donation links down below. If you want to contribute to the show, there's various ways to do that. If you want to share out the links, that helps too. Don't forget these knuckleheads over here. These knuckleheads over here. Good people. Make sure you're checking out their channels. Like and share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow night for wackadoodle stuff and get away from this crazy bad news shit for a while. So, you deserve a break today at your mama's. What? That's not right.
This is City Alpha 5! Woo!